This is the Danger Close podcast, Beyond the Books with me, Jack Carr.
Welcome to the Danger Close podcast, an IRONCLAD original presented by Navy Federal Credit Union. My guest today is my friend, Bert Sorin. Bert is the president and co-owner of Sorinex. That is the world's tier 1 strength and conditioning equipment company. And above that, he is just an awesome human being with a great story. So now, without further ado, Bert Sorin. You have the podcast. You have the Be Legendary. Is that,
yeah, I do. I haven't done them a whole lot. And usually we don't set up all the cool stuff like we set up today. I wanted to make sure it was good. So
too awesome. And look in the background there. Got a hat in the background there.
You saw the Easter egg,
coins. Huh? Yep. And you got look at, what do you have in the background there? Where'd you get that deer?
I shot that one in Missouri with my bow a few years ago.
Wow.
It was one of those crazy, like, weird deer of 10 lifetimes kind of stories. It was pretty cool. Nice. It was just went out. I've hunted this place for years and years, and I hadn't seen any deer. I saw some deer over in this field. I said, let me go sit up there. I had an 8-foot tall rifle stand that was on like 150 yards off the edge of the field. I was like, I'm just going to use an observation platform, sit up there with my bow, and does fed right under me. And I shot him at 45 yards, and he scored almost 190. Off a 100-acre piece of property. It was just 24 points. It was just this weird, like, you've got to be kidding me.
You just never know.
So it's one of those things that just makes you go, okay, well, like, it could happen at any time, right?
Amazing.
And I thought I missed him, and so I shot, and he went running off, and I could see my arrow, and I'm like, oh crap, I missed. And I kind of did that snort wheeze, started grunting with my mouth, and he stopped at like 120, 130 yards. So I was like, okay, cool. I've missed, but like, I've kept him around. He didn't know where the sound of the arrow came from. And he just stood there motionless for probably 20, 25 minutes in this tall CRP. And I'm watching, I'm shaking, like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I just missed a deer of 10 lifetimes. Like, I shouldn't have shot. But you start working through all these things in your head. And then he just walks forward and hunches over and just falls over. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I hit this deer. And I guess when I stopped him, he started bleeding internally, and he just stood there and just fell over. So I was sitting there, the whole time just telling myself I'm an idiot for shooting, and I suck, and I'm horrible. And, and then I backed out and came back 3 hours later and found him. And it was by far the biggest deer I've ever seen, probably on a magazine cover, much less kill with the bow. So it's fun.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's a reminder of like, hey, sometimes things happen when you spend a gazillion hours in the woods.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah. Wow, that's beautiful. Yeah. And are you in your man cave now? Or are you in a different spot?
No, I'm actually in the office.
Okay, you're in the office.
This is my office at work. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, the man cave is pretty spectacular. That thing's amazing.
It is. Yeah, we got to have you come out sometime.
And I love it.
Yeah, it's the new one is definitely set. It's good. It's my favorite place on earth.
Well, when we build our barn over here, this place is zoned for a barn. So it's probably a couple years out though, with everything. Everybody's so busy around here building, and we're so busy and everything. But I'm looking at yours as like, okay, all right.
I'll give you some little things that we did that were intentional that might help out.
Cool.
For some of the stuff coming up. Man, I can't wait to see the new spot.
I know. I thought you were going to be here. Yeah, the last one was pretty good, but we were kind of, packed in there, kind of close to town. Now we're a lot farther away. Like we're as far away as you can get, higher up. Really, you can't really see neighbors, that sort of a thing. Have a little land.
Very James Reese. That's good. I like that.
Yeah, exactly. There's you'll see it's a tactically advantageous position. You will see when you come out here.
Good. So, that's kind of the same. People, some of my buddies were over the other day. They're like, oh, interesting. Your driveway is a straight shot. I'm like, yeah, it's about 300 yards exactly from the top window.
There you go.
There's water on 270 degrees around you. I was like,
Nice. Get some little tells out there, some little wind, little things hanging. Like, all right,
exactly.
Wind.
Like,
okay, right to left, hold. Yeah,
we got evacuation routes by water. We have water. We got food.
Amazing.
So yeah,
I
you
love
kind of got to set it up, right? And are you going to be at your spot for a long time?
I think so. I think this is, we'll be here for a while. Yeah. And I thought you were going to be here next week, but then
I am.
We have a studio, but I mean here, because we thought the podcast actual studio was going to be done. This is a area in the house that's going to turn into the library. But the actual podcast studio was supposed to be done, months ago. And then it was supposed to be done next week. You know how that goes. So it's not done. So
oh, that's fine. Yeah. I was hoping, I thought we were maybe going to be able to get in before attack, but I know you're ridiculously busy. I can't imagine what it's, I want to ask you all these questions. Like,
it's been busy, man. It's been super busy, but I feel very fortunate. But yeah, I thought you're going to be able to be up here, and then we do it in the podcast studio, hang out, have some steaks again, shoot the boat, because I'm going to set up my own little tack out here. I need some more targets, so I have 4 out there right now. I just need to get a bunch more. Just need some time to put them out there.
When we were at your place last time cooking out, we had. It was deer walking around below you, but maybe moose. Am I right saying there were some moose? Yeah,
moose. Yes, that was a big moose spot. We have moose here too. Where we were last time didn't have elk for whatever reason. They just didn't use that draw. But they're everywhere. They're everywhere else. But moose loved it in there. Mule deer loved it in there. So we had bobcats, bunch of other things. But out here where we are now, moose and elk were just. I mean, they were bugling last night. I mean, crazy right off the deck. Yeah. My wife and I were like, it's a little early. And but there were, a stone's throw. If you threw a football from our deck, we couldn't see them because it's really wooded in there, but they were right in there. And so I just took a little video just so I could hear it. And it was really, really cool.
Can you
they're in there? No, we're still, I can't hunt them here, but but there's wild turkey, tons of turkey here. Moose are still in here. Mule deer are still in here. I know there's mountain lions around here. And then a friend sent me a picture. So I'd see at the trailheads they have, they're always like danger, mountain lion, and they put all this stuff up there, and then they put black bear on this thing. And I'm like, are there really black bear around here? And sure enough, at the house that you were at last time, a neighbor sent a picture. And right there in a driveway, just like ours, they're all pretty similar. Those houses was right there. So it looks like it's our place, but it's not. But a bear right there, just right by the front door. I was like, no way. And they took a video, and it just kind of sniffs around and then just kind of moves his way down, kind of below and back off into the woods. But I was like, no kidding. I did not know that they were around Park City. People have said it, but it's always like a friend of a friend saw one.
Right.
It's always a friend of a friend. So I haven't seen like an actual friend that took a picture of one that says, here it is now, recently. You're like, I heard from a friend back in 1978, there was one here. That's what the stories are usually like, but no, they're here.
The friend of a friend is like similar to the guy whose buddy was like super fast in high school.
Oh yeah.
It's always like, no, my buddy was like a 4.2. And I'm like,
right.
4.2 is really fast. Oh. I don't think that many guys were like,
you can't. It's like the downrange, getting intel. It can't be from a friend of a friend heard, and then you act on it. You might need to corroborate that a little bit with some other human intel sources, maybe some technical intelligence. You might not want to validate. Might not want to launch a war on that, though. We've been known to do that.
Weird. We'll leave that there. Maybe
exactly.
Someone should write a
lots to unpack in that one, but we have been known to launch wars off friend of a friend.
So someone should write a semi-fictional book series.
No one would believe it. No one would believe it.
No one would believe it.
Crazy. Oh man. But man, I want to talk to you about like your dad first, like growing up, because that's where all this starts. I love his story, and I'm just curious about how much of that work ethic and that drive and that creativity and that entrepreneurial spirit, like he passed on to you by talking about things, or did you just observe it? And I know he was working in like a shop class and teaching like physical education, gym stuff, and then he starts making this gym equipment. And I love this. And on the website, I love the story. So people should go to Sorinex.com, check out the story, on there. It's so awesome. But there's a Land Cruiser in it. Your dad had a Land Cruiser, and it's an FJ40, right?
It is. In 1974, I was actually brought home from the hospital when I was born on the floorboard of that Land Cruiser.
No way.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah, that's what I learned how to drive stick on.
We got to have you out then. I have a 1978 outside,
No.
and it's just it's all rebuilt and everything. It doesn't have the LS3 or anything in it, but it's the regular engine. So when you're driving that thing, I mean, you don't want to drive it too far.
No,
you're not going to get there quick. But
we
it's
used to
awesome.
talk about Armstrong steering, like your arms better be strong. It's just like you kind of redirect it every once in a while.
Yeah, exactly.
I always remember as a kid that the gear shifter would just shake.
It shakes.
Yeah,
it shakes, and the 4-wheel drive thing shakes. I'm trying to figure out. I got to take it in and see if somebody can like tighten something or do something so it doesn't just vibrate when you go over like 30.
They just whine when you're driving.
Yeah, it's so great. I love it. Yeah. It's fun. It's like the Sunday driver. It's like I did take it out. Did take it off road and did test it out when I first got it, and it's awesome. It's awesome, but
rattles like crazy.
It does rattle.
Yeah. The old cruiser, we used to talk. I mean, it knew when it was going hunting. Like it just kind of one of those always started up, always just, you could hear it, just love it. Probably because it was like, cool air on a October day, and generally internal combustion engines like that. But it was always, that thing had its own soul. My dad had it for 22, 23 years, something like that. And unfortunately, he had to sell it. And I actually tried to track it down about a year or two ago to who he sold it to. And because I wanted to buy it back and redo it. And I guess the guy had sold it.
Oh, there's got to be a way to track it down. There's got to be a way to keep finding it,
Yeah.
But it's got to become someone's full-time job. You have to hire someone to make that their full-time job.
Yeah. And I doubt it's going to be re-procured for what we sold it for.
Oh, no, it's gone up a little bit.
The funniest part, Pops bought it for $4,400 new off the lot. And he sold it for $4,500, $100 more 22 years later. He's like, man, I did good.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, $100.
$100 in 22 years. I'm like,
it's so great. If you held on to it 22 more years after that, then you could.
It would have been
make
set.
A little bit. Yeah,
it'd have been set.
I mean, you're not going to retire on it, but it's still pretty fun. But don't sell them. People, don't sell your Land Cruisers. That car when you're like, man, should I really be selling this thing? If there's a question, there is no question. Don't sell it. Hold on to it. Just put it somewhere, storage, whatever.
That's why you don't sell guns and cool knives.
Exactly.
Either.
Never sell knives, never sell guns. Yeah.
It's like, what am I not going to need to cut something at some point?
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. Always need another. And never sell any of the ones you have. You'll regret it. Anyway, you got to get taken home from the hospital on the floor of the Land Cruiser, of the FJ40. Man, what color was it?
It was that baby blue. Had black interior, white top, and we pulled that off. And Dad built the brush guard on the front of it back in the old days, kind of before that was commercially available. He had a set of 33s on it, which were pretty overly large back then. I think he might even had to cut the wheel wells out of it.
Yeah, maybe.
And the first week he had it, he took like a military industrial like undercoating they do tanks with, and he laid on his back and undercoated the whole bottom of it.
Nice.
So it never rusted out. It was pretty indestructible back in the day.
Oh man,
it was cool. He was definitely ahead of his time on a lot of stuff. Like there wasn't a lot of people in the early 70s doing that stuff.
Yeah, and quite handy. I mean, he starts making this equipment. Like, when does he go full time from teaching and gym and all that stuff to going? And was he competitive before that?
So he was a track and field athlete in college. 68, came down to South Carolina, discus thrower, competed till 72, became a teacher, bought the Land Cruiser in 74, and then when he was teaching, and then he would get off work. Take the Land Cruiser downtown. We'd go down to Owen Steel, strap piece of steel to the top, drive back home. He would start building stuff in the garage. And then after that, he would lift weights that night until, so it was just grind. And then he started figuring out he would sell off for $5 a week. He would do the other teachers their bus duty before or after work. So he'd make an extra $10 a day if he would just like, and back then $10 was actually would help.
Right.
And so he would do that. Then he started a jogging club after school for the kids and a weightlifting club. And so he was just basically always just working. Amazing. And so that just work ethic and just go. And then he started Sorin Playgrounds. So we built playgrounds and he would use natural materials. He would, if the schools didn't have money, which is where he coached, he took they had a lot where a bunch of trees. And he went out there with chainsaws and cut up all the trees, but left enough of the stumps and literally built the playground equipment into the stumps and used the trees so they didn't have to buy necessarily as many resources and material. And then this is really wild to think this worked in the 70s. Then he taught his PE classes how to do woodworking, 5th graders, and they built the playground equipment. Like, so then he got the whole school involved and saved the school money, but then he taught kids how to be resourceful and how to be capable. And one of the cool stories, he said there was this field, it was full of rocks because they just grabbed this, they said, school said, yeah, you could use this field for the new playground, but there's rocks everywhere. And the kids are throwing rocks. And of course they end up throwing rocks at each other during recess and kids are getting hit. So like, we got to pay someone to come out here and pick up the rocks. So Pops took a bunch of old tires, painted them orange, hung them in the trees in front of the woods and put cowbells in the middle of them. He goes, just leave them there. So all the kids, of course, would make a game of it immediately and start throwing rocks at the cowbell, see who could ding the cowbell. And he goes, in a year, we cleaned out the entire field because everyone threw the rocks, missed the bell, and threw them in the woods.
That's awesome.
I was like, oh, that's pretty awesome. And all the kids, he was like, hey, we're building hand-eye coordination. Everything's good. And then we're also making a safer playground. So he was always just really resourceful and came up with cool divergent thinking of how to solve problems. And that I think is one of the coolest things he passed down. That's one of those things I'm trying to do with my kids. And Pops always said, look at something for what it is, for not of what it is, but what it can be. And it was just, what is the potential of every possible person, resource, knife, gun, situation? Like, don't look at it for what it looks like. Like, how many divergent angles can you hit this and make it a resource?
Wow. That's amazing. They would say that and then live it at the same time.
He lived it. And then, it was wild.
Gosh. And then
still does.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. I love that. Love that story. And then when does he turn it into an actual, and it's not Sorinex at first, right? It's Sorin exercise equipment.
Sorin exercise equipment. Good. And
so he starts
that was
like
in
that.
1980. He started, so we did playgrounds and then we did Sorin exercise equipment. And actually funny, a girl that he was dating at the time was like, you can't teach and run 2 businesses. You have to do, you have to let one thing go. And I was like, what'd you let go? He goes, well, I broke up with her. And he goes, yeah, she was right, but I didn't want to admit it. So he said later he stopped teaching after 8 years and then did Sorin playground, Sorin equipment. And then a couple of years later said, we're just going to go full boat into the weightlifting side, because that was really his love. He's always been into lifting and always knew that he could come up with something that would really help.
And that's great. So in the late 80s, like today, you think of things when starting a business totally differently. You think of it, in terms of, okay, outreach. Okay, how to let people know we're there. Okay, we have platforms. Okay, what do we have? We have websites. We have social media. I can collaborate with people that I've never met before because I can reach out to them because we can kind of sense if we're on the same page and it might work. And there are ways to reach out to people. Like 1988, like how are you even going to, you're going to call a local
this was like
gym
82 at the time.
82.
Yeah.
So how are you building thinking about building this type of a business back then? Like, are you thinking local first, or do you have friends around the country, or like, how does that work?
Oh, it's a great question. Yeah, it was local churches, local rec centers, high schools, middle schools. It was just people that he knew in the community. And they go, well, we want a bench. And he goes, I can make a bench that's stronger than what's out there, or more adjustable or safer or whatever. And so he was just always pushing that side of it, which was awesome.
So he's reaching out local first. And then how does it begin to build? Like, do people start hearing about these things, like colleges or other high schools, or how does that professional sports teams, or how does that work as he starts to build this?
Oh, well, he was tied into the lifting community. So one of the first strength coaches that was at South Carolina, University of South Carolina, was one of his good lifting buddies. So they started, again, early 80s, there was not a lot of collegiate strength conditioning. That wasn't a big thing for sports teams. It was still really early. So we started doing it there. And then we had a couple of the other ones in the SEC, Kentucky and Tennessee, and some schools like that, mid 80s. That literally, in one of them, he had to sell his house to fund the materials for. And so I look back and I go, gosh, he gambled at times with some things that you're just like, he goes, I just knew it had to work. Like, we had to do this. This was our chance to get into the big times, to do the weightlifting facility at University of Kentucky, or a few years later, University of Tennessee. He's like, I used all my favors, all my buddies locally to help me, like everything that had to happen. I maxed out credit cards, sold my house. Like, this had to work. And it's a true American success story, but we laugh, it took a long time to get to the point where, like
right.
it was where you could call it a success story. And I still don't know if you can, but yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's the overnight success when people see your stuff all over, like, Olympic gyms and all these sports teams that are in the Super Bowl and all this stuff. Like, yeah, that wasn't like it was. That wasn't 1982, 83, 84, 85, 86. Not quite yet.
Right. And then, the Chicago Bulls in the 90s when Jordan was there. But like, again, there was no social media. There was no so you don't know.
Yeah.
Like we were at those places, but there was no really way to show that. And we surely didn't have the money to pay them to allow us to like put this marketing stuff out. We're like, hey man, it's cool. Best guys in the world training our stuff. Awesome. Move on.
Right. Oh man, but your guys are everywhere now. I mean, it's amazing. It's what you guys have built, and all of that, putting that sweat equity in. And I love that story, those American success stories. No one handed you anything, you guys built it, from the ground up. Look at all those risks that your dad took with a family. I mean, it's awesome. I mean, I think it's fantastic. Yeah.
I wouldn't suggest it. We were laughing one time. It's kind of like having one foot in the grave and another one on a roller skate.
Oh,
you don't really know if you're going to slip and fall in the grave or you're going to fly out of it. And it's but that's part of the fun of life. Like, let's do it. Let's go on the one go around we have. And
you only get one shot.
See what happens. And,
you take those risks and,
put a bunch of effort down, and hopefully everyone else will get tired of putting that much effort down, and
man,
you'll be around.
And so growing up, is your dad articulating these things to you, or are you just observing it? And now are you thinking back like, oh, wow, I remember, 1989 when he did this, or 1992 when he did this, or is he sitting you guys down, or is he taking you guys out hunting and like talking to you and saying, hey, passing on those lessons like that? Or is he just a, stoic like example?
There was both. There was, you'd see the stress, and you'd catch little bits and pieces. Like he'd come home like, hey, we got, Reno. And I'm like, I don't know what that means when I'm a little kid. I'm like, okay, but he seems extremely excited. And then I don't see him for a long time.
Yeah.
And then he's, comes off the road and, just kind of that long stuff. And he actually was really cool. A couple times he wrote letters to me, like that he didn't give me till later in life, that he was writing as his thoughts. Like, he was like, I did, I think he drove like 2,000 miles in a couple of days, making stops all around the country, just like kind of wondering, like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Is this, I'm away from my family. Am I doing all these things? And does my son really know what this is? Is he ever going to know what this means to me and means to our future? And it's pretty cool. I have like a security box of some of my most prized things. And that's that letter. I'm maybe 10 years old. And it's a little bit kind of like, was it Rudyard Kipling's If?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
It was kind of like the If. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that was similar to that, and I look back now with 45-year-old eyes. And like, man, there was always a plan there and always at least a general direction. And we would have a lot of conversations. And that was a big part of getting to go hunting together and talking while on back and forth on the hunting trips and about things that were occurring and, getting to be around the strongest people in the world. And I got an affinity and a understanding of that and held that to a high prowess and a high value. And so kind of much like, that's why I like your writing so much. It ties back to the classics or ties back to the extraordinary feats. And my dad is very similar in a way that he honors the strong and honors those that have had courage. And so I remember as a little kid, he telling me Greek mythology, I'm 6, 7 years old. And I would just, I thought the Minotaur story was like the coolest, and I would just hear these grand stories of heroism. And that was just, it's actually kind of crazy. So I know you and I both share a love for like the Rambo series.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And I remember my dad taking me to Rambo First Blood Part 2.
So do I. Yeah.
Right. In the theater.
Yeah.
We left the theater and he took me and I got my first bow that day.
Nice.
He took me to Jeffrey Archer. I was 8 years old. He took me there to the bow store I still shop at and get my bow done downtown. It's probably 3 miles from where I hunt is the bow shop. Still the same guys.
Awesome.
And I was able to tell Sylvester Stallone that story.
No way.
I was at Gunner's Gym and Sly was training and we got talking and we were talking and he was telling me, this is just so wild. Such a weird life, right? So Sly was telling me when he was a kid, watching Steve Reeves and Hercules Unchained. And he said, I was in the matinee and I saw this pose where he's, and all this stuff. And he was like living this. He was like his muscles and his courage and all these. And he goes, and it changed my life. He goes, I literally left the movie and I went to a junkyard and I started picking up axles and stuff. And he goes, I wanted to be strong. He was 9 years old. And I got to tell Sylvester Stallone in a 45-minute conversation, I go, when I saw you at 8 years old, I literally left and went to a bow shop and started shooting a bow. And I said, in fact, I have my bow in the car right now.
Nice.
Because I think I was going to attack like the week, like that. I said, to the extent I'm still lifting weights and still shooting a bow. And I was like, you were my Steve Reeves in this situation. Wow. And he actually like teared up. He was just like, wow. Like you could see it kind of come full circle. And I was like, it's so cool. But that's the stuff that he was always pouring in, watching, old African Queen and, watching Jaws together as a kid and, just that stuff. And so there's always been that built into it, which I very much appreciate, just that fantasy as a kid. Yeah,
it's important.
I would even say for you as a kid, you kind of don't realize it's a fantasy.
Right.
And I've been showing my kids MacGyver, the old MacGyvers.
Nice. Yeah.
Recently, they're like, look, and they're like, this is great. My wife's like, this is ridiculous. Like, no, you don't understand. At this age, they believe this is still possible. And that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
That they're thinking divergently and learning how to solve problems. And it could be fantasy, but that they partially believe this is doable is going to stretch their mind to some other capability that they're going to be so far ahead of other people around them because they don't believe what is impossible is impossible.
Yeah.
And I think all those crazy movies and shows back in the day, and you and I share all the same favorite movies and shows. It's strangely enough, right? And you went and did extraordinary things for decades. I would have to say that had to do something with it, right?
Oh yeah, no, it's the power of popular culture. And now that's why when I think about it and think about the inputs that our kids have, there's so many more and they're not necessarily healthy. I think back then in the 80s, those things were still healthy because it gave you good role models to look up to. Typically they, a lot of the times it was the lone underdog against the establishment fighting for good, right, the American way, all those sorts of things. So they were a good influence. Whether it's in the pages of books or it's a TV show or it's a movie, that's your popular culture influences. And those are important and they have been from the beginning of time through stories. And typically they were passing along lessons. But now there's just so many different inputs and a lot of them are just the easy button of a tweet for outrage. And it's, and now of course, big tech companies can manipulate not just our behaviors, but even our thoughts these days, which is crazy, which might not necessarily be healthy for us because division helps them. It helps politicians, but that's about it. It doesn't really help the citizenry. Doesn't help the kids. That's for sure. So I love those inputs. I keep threatening for my family to have all right, Tuesday, we're watching the A-Team. All right, Wednesday, it's MacGyver. Thursday, it's Magnum. Friday, it's Miami Vice. Going back 8 o'clock in front of the TV. You have to get there because if you miss it, you can't go back, unless you put in a Betamax or a VHS and you hit record. So I keep threatening to do that, and I should probably just make it happen. More so for me than them.
100%. You're exactly right, and that's. I don't know if a kid would watch the original Red Dawn, and it would have the same effect on them as it did you and I when we were kids. Strangely enough, not being weird here, but it's maybe going to come faster than we thought, unfortunately.
Seriously.
It's like whoosh. But
I almost wore my Red Dawn shirt today. It's downstairs. I did this one instead, I want to make sure we have the Sorinex going on, but I almost wore the Red Dawn shirt that you gave me.
But you're looking all those were, and you're right, Magnum PI. And strangely enough, my dad looked exactly like Tom Selleck and the 80s, which probably worked out well for him, but yeah, all those same things. And, you look at what you did in your life, and even a lot of times I think I potentially out potentialed my potential at times, because at times I didn't realize that I wasn't supposed to be able to. And I have to put it back. A lot of things that my dad put into me, and even just, I hate to say, popular culture was very beneficial for me.
Rocky for sure. I mean, the gym that I'm building with the stuff that you sent outside, because eventually I'll have the inside gym in that barn I was talking about. But in the meantime, it's going to be Rocky IV style outside. So I'm going to get some 6x6s on that picture from Sorinex Outdoors. If people go to that on Instagram, they can scroll down a little bit, and it's been up there a couple of times, but I think there's a Punisher symbol on the top of it. But
I think that's Logan Hanks's. I believe.
Oh, really? Oh, really? Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
I think that's his spot. I'm pretty sure.
Nice. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sink a couple of 6x6s in the ground out there and put the off the grid, system out there and get the tire and get my sledge and the other things that you sent. So that'll all be outside until for a year or two. And I think I'll just shovel it out in the snow and just get out there and just, cause I need to get after it again. Like I deprioritized sleep, eating right and working out over the past few years, obviously, so I could write the novels and get the screenplays going and all that sort of thing. But it's
influence the rest of it.
It's noticeable. Well, thank you. But I'll tell you what, it's noticeable, especially when I'm out doing something with a guy like Kevin Holland, who we talked about in the beginning.
Yeah, geez.
I mean, Kevin is incredible. I mean, he was at Development Group. He was at Delta. He did some amazing things overseas. Continues to do amazing things overseas to this day. And what an amazing guy. But we did the SIG Hunter Games, the first one last year. Last year. And it was awesome. We had a great time. We got second, which is not bad, but I was feeling it. Oh my gosh. And he's not breaking it. He's not even breaking a sweat out there in these mountains, just climbing around. And we have Bullet Valentina is with us. She's my partner, and she's not breaking a sweat either. And I'm just like, oh man, I hope I survive this.
Dude, I was dying this year. Yeah.
It's tough. Well, you guys had some crazy weather and you were out there and it snowed on you and hailed on you. And didn't your tent collapse a couple times?
Yes, all the above. Yeah. Snow and hail and then sun and then everything melted and all the roads turned into grease. And then, I was sleeping the first or second night. I got there, it was 90. And then that night it dropped to 50. And the next night it snowed 3 inches.
Crazy.
And I'm sitting there sleeping. I felt and the tent was folding in and I just woke up and went boom and hit it before it collapsed.
Right.
And I'm thinking Stumpf, Brent Burns, and a couple of guys, like their tent poles broke the whole nine. They just didn't wake up. I just happened to wake up, and then I had to wake up every hour and tap the snow off.
Yeah.
I would say it was one of the harder physical things I've done.
Yeah.
I don't live at altitude, and really my sporting life, or the hard stuff I did was always like power generated. So it was not sustained effort, a 600 pound squat, like, although it's very intense, I don't have to do it for 10 hours.
Right. Over a couple day period.
Yeah, that wrecked me. And actually it was funny. I was looking at my Oura ring that was giving my outputs. And I was looking, I said, okay, I had a hard workout. And then I looked, I said, hard workout, 7 a.m. on Sunday morning. What was that? And I'm like doing my math. I go, oh, right. I put my boots on and walked to the bathroom.
Oh my gosh. And
my heart rate.
Oh, wow.
I had a resting heart rate of 82 when I was sleeping.
Okay.
And I was like, maybe a little overtrained and get a little altitude-ish. Yeah, that wrecked me. But
that was the only thing that saved me, is I'm coming from 8,000 feet and everybody else was coming up, from sea level. So that was, I kept thinking about that anyway as I was going, just psychologically, like, okay, you got this tiny bit of an edge because of that. I don't know if it's, really true or not.
Yeah, the 200 feet was not helping me. Yeah. The 200 feet elevation, I was eating me alive.
Yeah. And what a cool event. Awesome. That was awesome. I wish I'd like to do it again at some point. It was busy. This year was crazy, so I couldn't do it. But it sounds like I picked a good year to miss.
No, it was brutal. We had a couple guys bleeding from the nose, and we're getting altitude sickness and getting pulled off the mountain, and hypothermia and all kinds of stuff. Hoist Gracie and I we were rucking, and both of our glutes just basically locked up to the point where we're just looking at each other like, I can't walk forward. I'm like, no, neither can I.
Nice. You guys were the same. So you guys got first place, right?
Yeah, sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I forgot. Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations.
So thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah. Probably much like you, like the physical stuff was doable. We did it, but we shot really well. Like our guys were really, I practiced the shooting because that's what I knew I could do at home. And I trained as much as I could, but you can't really prepare fully for that altitude. But yeah, man, our team acted like a team, and that was the fun part.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, same with us. It was for whatever reason, me and Bullet Valentina, we clicked right away, and Kevin, of course, is amazing. So, and we had a guide from Oregon who was just an elk guide from up there who was just like a mountain goat. But it was great. I hope to do that again. What a cool event! They bring some really amazing people together, and yeah, that was fun. I think they had added another team member this year. I think we had just the three of us, and Kevin is our kind of RSO. Okay. And then I think they added another one this year for you guys. So it was a team.
Yeah, we had three, bigger. And then the one RSO or the
they call them the RO or something.
The pro, yeah. That was this year. It was Corey Jacobson for us, who runs Elk 101. Awesome. Super awesome guy. Like, I
was thinking about him last night because I'm like, I'd love to, because the elk out here, it was a high pitch. They sounded very, I guess, young. I'm not really, I go with people that do that sort of thing, that live it. I try to learn. Right. I'm always trying to learn, always a student, but I'm definitely a student when it comes to that sort of thing. But these ones to me, they sounded really young. Well, all of them except for one did. And, but it was just, I hadn't heard that pitch before. And I've heard elk bugle, a little bit. But I hadn't heard this pitch before. Maybe it was because I was just so close for so long or something like that. But they really sounded young to me. I don't know if that makes any sense. I think I have one coming up, but I'm not positive. It's not totally locked in. Things just kind of come up last minute a lot, but I think I might have to kind of cancel everything for the fall because I got to finish this book. I have a really cool...
Yeah, the 6th book coming?
Yeah, 6th book coming. So with the premiere and finishing things up and editing and all that stuff for the series, it put me a tiny bit behind. So... I think this week I got to make a call on this Alaska hunt, Alaska brown bear hunt. And I've done it before up there, but
I think you went last year. And
I went up there last year. Yeah. And that was, it was inland. So this one is in the Admiralty Islands. So, so this is a little different, but I've done this one before. You're on a boat and then you go in every day. And then you hike up these streams, and it's crazy. You're going up there. It's with glacier guides and mutts. So her mom was the first Alaska female master guide, and she's the second female, and she's the daughter. So you're hiking up these things, but she grew up doing it with her family. And so it's been passed along, and you're walking by all these just huge bear. I mean, everything looks huge to me, right? And moms, and you're just walking up these streams and you're working your way up, but you're just passing these things. And she's just, I'm ready to rock, right? I'm ready just in case.
Yeah.
But you're very close to these things.
What are you taking with you? What firearm?
375. Yeah. Those firearms are Seiko from their custom shop, Seiko 375. Okay. Yeah. But it has a wood stock. So I think this year I'm trying to, what's the one I want to get? I want to get, is it another Seiko? Anyway, they have one with the composite stock that I think could probably be better for up there, stainless barrel and everything for that. Because you're in seawater, you're in the salt water essentially.
Sure. I love how much you put the gear into your books like that. That is, as a gear guy, I don't know a lot of gear, but basically if it's about shooting, hunting, or lifting, like that's my thing. Nice. And so people are like, I don't know, man. It's just some of that stuff he talks about. I don't know what it is. I'm like, you move over. This is where I get to drive here. So I love that aspect of your writing.
I appreciate it. Did you watch the show yet? And did you see that you can see in the background? You have to pause it. Just the first.
I watched the first one, the first episode thus far. And then I also heard episode 8. A couple people have sent me a screenshot and said there's an officer who pulls over Reese. Yeah. I think it's an officer, and he has a name tag.
Yeah.
And his name tag is Sorin.
Is it? I'm going to go check that out. That's awesome.
Episode 8.
No way. I didn't notice the name tag.
Someone's like, I've had like 5 different people. Some customers like, dude, your name tag is, and I was like, oh,
there's so many things like that. And I ended up doing this other podcast with the showrunner and my buddy Jared Shaw, former SEAL, who gave the book to Chris Pratt. We're doing a podcast where we talk about each episode, and things like that come up all the time because so much got put in there because they really wanted to put these little Easter egg things all over the place. And I hadn't noticed that one.
Yeah, no, I was just like, I thought it was pretty funny. I haven't got to that one yet, but 2 or 3 people have hit me with that. And I said, was the guy at least cool? He goes, it's a small female.
Hers? Well, okay. Yeah, I definitely didn't know. That's even better. Well, if you pause it in his garage in episode 1 or 2, I'll have to go back and look. You can see Sorinex in the background on a plate. Nice. On a plate. There was a lot more of it, but things get cut. There's so many things that ended up on the cutting room floor that I loved. But you just gotta for sake of the
that's how it
flow and
goes.
everything else. That's how it goes.
Sure.
And then a plate was in the opening credits, and that one didn't make it in either.
I saw that. I was like, oh, that'd be so cool.
Oh man,
that was awesome.
right there. But a lot of that stuff got morphed as we went through it. But that would have been pretty cool because that was pretty legit.
Man. Way cool.
Yeah.
How are you guys looking to hopefully do a multi-year series for all the books?
We'll see. I sure am. I know.
There's one guy who's really big on that.
No, I know everybody would like to do it, but now it's, negotiate those, everybody up at those senior levels at Amazon and Chris's team and stuff. They need to work it out. So
Bert is crushing, right?
Yeah. So
number one.
Yeah. Number one.
It's pretty good.
And it's crushing around the world too. And Amazon has all that data. They'll never share it. They just like any sort of online platform, they can track everything that you do in these tech companies, as we know. I mean, there's a reason why when you start talking to your spouse about putting on an addition to the house or doing a remodel, that all of a sudden things start showing up in your Instagram that
is that Alice?
It's somebody.
Alice.
In this case, I don't think it's Alice, but it's it's certainly Google. But there's a reason, that stuff starts popping up in there. But
freaks me out.
Yeah, but so they have the data and they know, but they won't. They would never share it. But they know, how long you watch and when you change, and I'm sure there are algorithms that kind of correlate all different actors and how long people watch each one and what kind of scenes and this sort of a thing. So you can almost pay. It kind of takes the art out of it if you ever got to that stage. Let's say, in 10 years, when you just wanted to make something that keeps the most eyeballs on the screen, and you do that based on the data that you've collected over the previous 20 years. Kind of takes the art out of it a little bit, but I think that's maybe the way we're headed. I don't know. That's just a guess.
Heck, they probably have the thing in your TV that knows where your eyes are.
Who knows? I would say that probably is not that far away. You know?
Somewhat terrifying.
It is. It really is. But they've got that data, but from what I can gather, not just in the United States, but around the world, it's crushing. So I know I would think that Amazon wants to do another season, and I know Chris does, but it's, they have to have their people talk to each other and figure it all out. And, if it happens, it happens, great. And if it doesn't, then, hey, I'm just excited that we made one. I'm good, like from a little kid, like when we were a little kid watching those movies, and I'm like reading a novelization of Rambo First Blood Part 2 that same summer written by David Morrell, that same summer that I see the film. And I'm thinking, hey, one day I'm going to write books, like this. It's going to be number one New York Times bestselling book. And it's going to be made into a film. In the 80s, you're thinking film, now we think, more streaming series, that's, it's kind of in the same, same type of a deal. But it happened. So I'm like, I couldn't be happier. I couldn't be more thrilled. And if we make some more, great. And like I said, if we don't, then, that's okay too.
What do you think your 10-year-old version would think of you?
I think they wouldn't be shocked.
Really? He's just like, it worked out. Cool.
Right. Yeah. I was putting in the work even back then. Like you, I had that bow, I had one a little earlier, but then that summer I got another one, because that was 6th grade summer, I think. And, so then I'm just going up in trees and I'm just practicing and I'm, climbing ropes and
your face
exactly. Yeah. Running around with just, some Army surplus green pants on, no shirt, little red bandana around my head. But I'm training.
Maybe some kind of torn tarp.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Burlap sack. Just wishing I could afford one of those 1999 combat knives that would show up on infomercials at that summer, that were awful. But you didn't know that as a kid. You're just like, oh man, you can put fish hooks in that handle too. That's amazing.
I actually met Jimmy Lyle.
Oh man, no way.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad used to take me to Blade Show when I was a kid. I was like 9 years old. I met Jimmy Lyle right when the movie came out and got to hold one of the originals. Who would have known? Like, I'd realized what I was doing at that age.
Somebody sent me on eBay the other day, like just a couple of days ago, and you just reminded me of it. They say that it's one of the original knives, like number 57. And I have to go back to, there's a Blade magazine that I have around here, not very far away, that talks about the exact numbers and who got what. I think Stallone got like 1 through 10, and he gave all of them away except for one. I think I have to go back to that Blade magazine and read it. But they made a few, or Jimmy Lyle made a few back then that they actually then sold. So I don't know. I need to, once again, you need someone whose only job is to track down that FJ40 and to sit there on eBay and try to get that. And then to be on Gunbroker and like, wait, if you can't buy it now for something that you want, like that's a full-time job. You know?
Could you imagine what the M60 that he shot from the hip would be worth? That belt fed would be
seriously. It's out there somewhere. You know,
it is.
It's like I think the Beretta 92F from Die Hard and Lethal Weapon. I think that's out there somewhere. I think somebody bought it though. I think somebody did get that. I'm not positive.
Or Jed's 45 Colt from Red Dawn.
Oh man, that'd be cool. That's out there, you know. But you know, we wonder like how much you really, what records were kept back then. If it always went back into a box in a prop house that had, a box of exactly 10 of the exact same ones, or like, who knows. You know, it's just, but yeah, all those things I love all that stuff. Magnum's Rolex is out there. I know. So I've got, once again, I need to get somebody whose only job is to track these things down.
Well, you could probably write it off.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, that's good enough. Crazy, man. No, I love going back and watching all those. My wife isn't as into it as I am, the 80s action films. So I have to wait and save up till she's off somewhere else, and then I watch them. But sometimes I need to watch them for actual research now, or watch shows for research. Someone's coming on the podcast or whatever else. So someone who did one of these movies, might come on, and so I'll go back and watch at least a few. Let's say they made 10 movies, and I'm going to go watch a few of them from each different period that they were, so I can have some more recent type of experience with their films in order to ask the informed questions and that sort of thing.
Sure.
She doesn't like to watch them as much as I do, but it's just
that's what the cave is for. That's where it's like, I'm going to go train late at night, and then I'm going to watch my old movies like that, my 80s style.
Well, in the new podcast studio, when you come up, and I wish it was happening next week, but there's a big screen in there. It's not working yet, but I'll be able to watch some, shows for research. And then if I actually do need to watch something for research, it's very difficult to watch it in the house when everything here is going on with wife, 3 kids, all the craziness. I can't be like, I'm just going to sit here and watch a movie because it looks like fun. It looks like I'm just relaxing. Even if I have a pen, I swear I need to take some notes. But when everything else is going around and you're not helping, it's you have to be kind of out of sight.
I've noticed that.
How
How old are your kids now? Because you're roughly the same age as mine.
So we have 16, 14, and 11.
Okay. Yeah, you're a bit further along.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
In the thick of it, it's chaos. But my daughter and I, we got to go to Pearl Harbor this last year with the Best Defense Foundation, which was incredible, and help veterans get to and from these different events. And we had 63, I want to say. Anyways, around a little over 60 that we took back there for the 80th anniversary commemoration events. That's great. My daughter got to sit across the table from these guys, hear their stories, help them in and out of their wheelchairs to the events, to their meals, get them, make sure they're taking their medication, like all that stuff. And, I've never seen her engage like that. And it was life-changing, I think. And then we went to Normandy and did the same thing. We took 23 veterans back to Normandy this June. And once again, same thing. I mean, she's sitting across the table from guys in 101st Airborne that were first in their stick to jump in to Normandy on D-Day. Another guy, 82nd Airborne, crashed his glider into, in Normandy and got out. And then these guys all fought all the way through Battle of the Bulge, all the way to Berlin. Another guy was one of the first out of the landing craft, that gate falls and ran into the surf, and and we're sitting there on these beaches with these guys, and in the towns in which they fought, and she's having dinner with them, or get their food and bring it back, and sitting there and talking to them and hearing their stories, and it's pretty amazing. But I think I wouldn't be surprised if she does something either in the military or, supporting veterans somehow. I'm just not sure. And we're around, like, I know you have a close connection to veteran community. Where did all that start? Did it start with that popular culture, you think, back then? And
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I always, of course I thought a Green Beret was the coolest thing ever, because that's what John Rambo
Absolutely.
was. I didn't know anything about it. I had zero context for that. And really, as I was growing up, I was, doing the weightlifting, and then sports started, and, and I didn't know a lot of people in the military. I didn't even know there was like a channel. I didn't know how that worked.
Right.
And I'm just a blinders. I mean, I'm like an 80s kid, but like I'm also a only child too. So I was outside screwing around in the woods, building forts. I wasn't going to figure out what method that I was going to get to the next phase of my life. It was just like, I'm going to go take this cast net and walk around in the shallow water until I catch a bunch of stuff, and we're just going to have fun. So it wasn't really until I was out of college till I was like, wait a second, like y'all went and did this other thing. And then, then right about the time I got out of college, a couple of years later, I was training for the Olympics, and 9/11 kicks off.
Yeah.
And, and then I'm training to get on the US team. So there was a lot of pride and patriotism of the US. And I just remember it hitting differently and going, wow, like I know people that I went to high school with, they're over in this crazy place I've never heard of, and they're fighting. And then I kind of put two and two together, like, oh, those guys are who I used to think were cool as kids. There was like this long period that I just didn't connect the two things. And then later, you kind of go, well, I had my path, but other people certainly went and did their path. And then probably at 30-ish, I started running into some fellas from your community. And then we realized that there was a lot of mutual respect, a lot of very, very similar interests, similar frames of mind and feeling of patriotism. But then we both did hard stuff and went after hard stuff. We just did it in different ways. So my community and basis of friends really started becoming military friendly and military heavy. Partly because I just wanted to give back to that community that I didn't really participate in, just kind of from ignorance. And, I always thought like, gosh, like, should I have tried to go into, the military or on the special forces, something like that? Like, always that burning question, like, could I have made it?
Yeah.
Could I have done that? And, and some people that they're in that world, they're like, our community. I was like, no, it's your community. Like, let's not, like, they're like, but you're in our community. I go, whoa, like there's two different things, whether I was capable enough, maybe, and whether I decided to do that and sign that check are two different things. I don't mix those two. I'm very aware of that. But I don't feel any type of guilt, but I also, I appreciate the men and women that did stuff for our country so very much that if I could be helpful, and I've found the ways that I could be helpful. It's not always monetarily. A lot of times it's just be there for people and to support people, maybe in a way that they're not getting in their current iteration. And my house has been open for years and years and years for multiple veterans and just folks, just whatever we could do. And so, as a only child, I didn't have brothers and sisters. So I always wanted to have that kinship. And that was probably my favorite moment of any movie, was the end of Red Dawn when the two brothers are together on the bench. And I just go, I want to feel that way about someone. I want to feel that way about a brother or a friend or something like that. It would be a success to die in their arms fighting together. Like that would be okay. And and so there may be something inside me that wants to be able to help people that maybe don't have that opportunity to be with someone or feel alone, or they feel like they're in trouble. And I go, wow, I've had a pretty successful life. I've worked very hard. We've gambled and done some things, but if I had that opportunity, and that when we built our new house, that's what Leslie and I, my wife, we built it as a place of recovery and of rejoicing, and to intentionally to pull people over and plenty of rooms and things like that, because the people in the athletic community, but the military community and just friends of mine, like I want to make sure that they have a place, and that, at times it's a halfway house. At times it's people get off the radar and come over and just love up on them. And it's part of my wife and I's ministry to be there for people. And so like, that's kind of how I interface with the military world. But I want to make sure people know that I did not serve. I don't pretend that I did. And I like to think in my best hour I could have, but I don't know.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I'll tell you what, I know that you have been accepted into the special operations community. There are a few people out there, you, Daniel Winkler, there's a few people that have been embraced by the special operations community. And, you are definitely
an honor. And I still feel an imposter syndrome on that, because I go, hey man, I appreciate it. But
kindred spirits.
Yeah, exactly. But thank you.
But in the lead up to 9/11, I mean, how do you get into like the hammer throw? Because if somebody sees that, you're like, I couldn't just walk down to the Big Five and buy the hammer throw thing and then go in my backyard and like toss it through my neighbor's wall. Like, how do you even get start in the hammer? And was it the hammer throw and like the weight?
Hammer throw. The weight, 35-pound weight, which is the indoor hammer.
Okay.
They have indoor track and field, outdoor track and field. Outdoors, what everyone knows about. During the winter, they also have indoor track and field. And the hammer throw, it goes too far to throw indoors. They have this 35-pound little fat guy that only goes about a third as far. So it's a training aid, but then they say, well, we'll make it an event.
No way. Because it seems very dangerous. Yeah. Like if you release it in the wrong position, it seems like someone's taking that thing, through the jaw.
Oh yeah. Yeah. People get killed every couple of years. Someone will get killed. I mean, you're talking a 16-pound ball. It goes 200, 250 feet and comes down. I mean, it goes through stuff.
It's like a cannon. Essentially,
it's a cannon. Yeah, it was an original weapon. So it goes back to the weapons part. I always liked weapons, right?
Yeah.
Javelins and I just love seeing stuff fly, and that's probably why I still enjoy archery so much. Because people are like, "Why are you so into archery?" I go, "This is just what I was doing when I was throwing a hammer. I like to see stuff go really far, and I love watching it."
Yeah.
And I used to be able to make big, heavy things go really far. Now I can make arrows go far. Or I can watch a vapor trail of a rifle bullet or whatever. It's the same stuff. So
that's crazy. But how's the first time? Like, were they like, "Hey, you look pretty strong. You should try this hammer throw thing."
You look like an idiot that doesn't want to do a sport that will ever get paid for. Come over here.
We got a sport
There's
for you.
There's hundreds of dollars to be made.
And we got an invent for you. Yeah, you'll make hundreds. How does that start?
Very funny. So I went to the University of South Carolina. I meant to go to Appalachian State, up where Kevin's from.
No way. It's beautiful up there. I was just there last week. That is what a great college town. Right there.
That is where I wanted to go to school.
It's like a hidden gem. It's a hidden gem up there.
Yeah. I wanted to be a snowboarder in the winter and a hunting guide and a fly fisher guide in the summer. And that's what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to grow a beard and just be a mountain dude. That's what I wanted to do in high school. So, of course, I applied late to Appalachian State because I was half paying attention. I was probably out fishing or something. And the last minute, I'm like, oh, cool. Let me apply to South Carolina as a backup. Well, I got in there. This is like 10 miles away from my house. I was like, oh, okay, I'll go there for a semester, get my grades up,
right?
Then pop into App State. I won't be basically an out mountain dude. This will be a great life. So I get to college. I just party my ass off for like the first 6 days straight. I ride around on my mountain bike, stay drunk, chase girls, do the whole, like, again, we grew up in the 80s. So I thought 80s movies were accurate and how college was going to be.
Yeah, there were a lot of them. Yeah.
It was not like the 80s movies, but I tried to make them like that.
Right.
So the 6th or 7th day, I wake up, I'm kind of hungover. I'm like, all right, I need to actually do something. I need to do some physical work, lift weights. So I knew that Sorinex had built the football or the athletic weight room at South Carolina, and the rec center had a really crappy weight room. So I didn't want to train there. So I was like, well, I want to train on our stuff, the stuff I'm used to. So I called Pops, and I didn't have a cell phone yet because cell phones were around then. I said, hey, I want to work out. Do you think you'd get me into the athletic weight room? So yeah, sure. Let me call down there. Called. They said, yeah, come out after all the athletes are gone. Like I assume 5 or 6 o'clock at the end of the day. I'm 17 years old. I don't know. I don't pay attention to time. I just get done eating my burrito and go, screw it. I'm going down to the weight room. So I go down there, 2 o'clock. And if you've ever been in a college weight room, 2 o'clock PM is like the busiest time ever. Everyone's out of their classes and it's just a gong show, but it's the first week of school. So all athletes are in the same weight room. Mm-hmm. So no one knows each other. So I kind of walk in unannounced and when everyone's wearing kind of plain clothes because they haven't got their stuff yet. Yeah. So everyone looks the same. And so I'm walking, I'm like, walk in, I'm doing some power cleans. I'm like, this is great. I'm just like, it's like a commercial gym I don't have to pay for.
Yeah.
This is awesome. Which is really funny if you think about it. I basically infiltrated a college program.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing that. And I'll look over and some kids are standing in line and they're doing the vertical jump testing where you test your height, and, then you go and whack. That looks awesome. Going back to Rocky IV. Nice. I'm like, oh, cool diagnostics. Uh-huh. I've never done this. This looks cool. So I walk over, stand in line, boom, jump up 29.5 inches. Like, hey, pretty good. I was like, all right, anyway, good. I walk off. They give me a little piece of paper. Okay. So I go over and I'm doing some bench presses. And then I see the same group. They're doing the body fat composition test in this office. I'm like, this is really cool. Yeah. This is like Rocky IV. And I'm like, well, I'm going to go see what my body fat is. This is awesome. So I'm standing in line. I get to the guy who's running the calipers. He goes, all right, what's your name? And I was like, I just hand him my sheet and he goes, what sport are you? And I'm just like, oh, I got to make up something. So I said, track and field, because I had done track and field in high school and I sucked. And my dad was a good shot put and discus thrower. So I knew enough of it. I could talk my way out of it if I was asked. He goes, okay, what events? I'm like, shot put and discus. And he goes, okay, how far did you throw in high school? I'm like, this guy's supposed to give do my body fat composition. Why is he asking me these questions? And I went, well, I threw 44 feet and 132. I wasn't very good. He goes, all right, what'd you get at the state championship? I'm like, what are you giving me a third degree for, dude? And I'm getting like, all right, someone's on to me at this part, right? And so I said, well, I didn't go to the state championship. I wasn't very good.
Like, what are you doing here?
And he's just like, he goes, oh, okay. So he does the body fat and everything. And he goes, okay, well, practice starts tomorrow. My name is Larry Judge. I'm the throws coach at the University of South Carolina. I'm like, the one dude I couldn't lie to on campus, probably within this entire city of 100,000 people, the one guy who would call me on was that guy. It's like basically telling someone that you're going to join you're going to join Buds and Navy SEALs in this season, and it happens to be the guy who runs Buds, And I go, oh, okay. He goes, well, yeah, practice starts tomorrow. I need to be there. I go, well, that's a spring sport like this August. I said, okay, I'll come out. And he goes, no, son, you're in college now. It starts tomorrow. And I go, okay, coach, I'll try to make it. Totally making that up. I was trying to just back out of this conversation. And he goes, no, if you're going to be on the team, you will make it tomorrow. I go, okay. And I walked out and I went home and I got on my phone in my dorm room. I called Dad. He goes, how's your workout? I go, I think I just joined the track team. And he goes, you joined the track team? Why? Wait, what? You're like, knowing that he was the great track athlete. I sucked. He's like, but that was his alma mater. So he thought I was trying to like do something for him. And I was like, I don't know. I had this conversation and they told me to show up. He goes, you going to do it? And I go, yeah, I'll show up. I'll see what it's about. And he goes, you don't have to do this for me. And I go, I'm going to show up. I'm going to see what's up.
No kidding.
So I show up the next day, the biggest people I've ever seen in my life, because I'm a 6'2", 172 pounds, 17 years old.
Oh, wow.
I'm like a string bean, right? All these throwers are giant. They're all 4-chip, Blue Star athletes from all over the country. I didn't realize that South Carolina track and field, especially the throws group, was like, they were just about to break out as the up and coming dynasty of, it was like the team that like kind of no one knew was the team yet. So I walk on there, literally no earthly idea what was going on. I didn't know anything about sports. I just lived outside all the time. So they asked me, they said, well, how far have you thrown? You're skinny, so you should throw the javelin. I'm like, okay, cool. I was like, that's like a spear. It's like a weapon. This is awesome. They go, well, how far can you throw a javelin? No, I've never seen one. They go, how far can you throw a football? I go, never played. How fast can you throw a baseball? I go, never played. I can throw a rock pretty far. And they're like, all right, that's going to have to do.
No way.
So we got to practice and he goes, well, I want to have you throw the hammer. I'm like, what's that? He goes, this is kind of like a shot put on the end of a wire.
Don't kill anyone.
We don't kill anyone, but you're relatively tall and you never know. You might be good one day. I'm like, okay, this looks cool. So I was spinning around. I was enjoying it. This was fun. I was just showing up to practice. Like they expected I was going to be there for like a week. They'd run me off. They called me Rudy because the movie Rudy had just come out. So I was like the undersized, like, and they're kind of like, what's this Sorin kid keep showing up for? And I'm just like, I don't know. Y'all told me to show up. So I would just work. And every 4 weeks we would like do this max out in lifting. So every 4 weeks I was getting like exponentially stronger.
Yeah.
And I got addicted to that. And I was like, oh, so if I just work really, 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 really hard and eat everything in sight, I could gain like pounds per month. And my strength levels for me, were just shooting through the roof. Wow. And so I got my early addiction of, this is what success feels like. This is what hard work feels like, because I always respected athletes and I always secretly was ashamed I wasn't one because I grew up in this strength culture, but I just sucked. So every 4 weeks, it was like I was a new man. And I was just like, give me more of whatever this is. And if this means hard work and I got to go home and piss blood and eat till I puke, and every 4 weeks I get the dopamine hit of being the best I've ever been, sign me up for life. This is awesome.
No way.
And it was pretty cool. I ended up putting on 30 pounds of muscle my first semester in college.
Dang.
I went from 172 to 199, basically almost 30 pounds.
Wow.
And my squat the first year went from 320 for a single to 445 for 5. And I was just, it was just boom, 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 boom. And I was just like, this is all I want to do. This is all I want to think about. I finally can be one of those athlete guys. And I still suck compared to the other guys. But I just kind of convinced myself. It was when that darn movie, The Edge, came out too.
I remember The Edge.
With Anthony Hopkins when he kills the bear with a stick.
Oh, yeah. Got it. Okay.
And remember, the line was, what one man can do, another can do. And I heard that and I'm like, all right. And so I started talking to the other guys there. I was like, well, yeah, I'm getting all excited for this home meet. And they go, the home meets don't matter. I go, what do you mean they don't matter? It's a competition, right? They go, the only thing that matters is the conference and the national championships. I go, okay, what's that? And they go, the conference, like the SEC. I go, okay, what's the SEC mean? They go, Southeastern Conference. I go, is that like a meeting we go to? They go, no, dum-dum, that's the conference championships. I go, okay, cool. Yeah. So I have to be good at that one. They're like, yeah, you got to be good at that one. And then if you're really good, you get to qualify for nationals. I go, and what's that mean? They go, well, you do that. And if you're really, really good, you get All-American there. I go, got it. So that's what I need to do then. They're like, yeah, sure, kid. Like, that's what you need to do. And then that I just told myself, I was like, all right, I'm going to go to that conference thing and I'm going to score points there. And if I do that, they're going to give me some money to go to school. And then after that, I'm going to go to that national thing. And if I do really good there, I'll get more. And if I go there, I could maybe be an All-American one day, because 2 of the guys on our team, they're like, yeah, we're All-Americans. And to me, that was like hearing, like when you're a kid, you hear like, oh, Navy SEAL, like that's this thing, that's this entity. And I just told my mom, I was like, I'm going to be one of those All-American things one day, because that sounds amazing. That will be what I consider a success.
Okay.
And I just said, okay, I'm just going to put in the work until it happens. And then kind of fast forward, I ended up scoring at 8 out of 8 conference champiended my
in the hammer throw,
in the hammer, the weight, and the javelin. I ended up
javelin
okay at the javelin.
Nice.
Ended up being All-American. I got it 4 times. Twice my junior year, twice my senior year, and then my last throw of my SEC career, I had a 3-foot lifetime best, which is pretty crazy amount, from 68 to 72 feet. On my last throw, and broke the SEC record. So I got to be SEC record holder for a couple of years. And so it was like storybook ending. I got to go, okay, I literally went from the worst person in the SEC, the shittiest, horrible, to like my last throw of my career. Yeah. I was able to say I was the best person to ever do this at the SEC.
That's amazing. That is crazy.
Yeah, it was awesome. So,
I mean, what if you hadn't, that's one of those things, like what if you hadn't called your dad and been like, hey, you think you can get me in there? Or he hadn't answered the phone that day, or, it just didn't work out. They'd said, no, we don't have room for him, or, hey, maybe another time, 100%. Or, man, that is crazy.
And then you look at like all the things, you're right. Like, why did I go at that time?
Yeah.
If I did go and just work out and leave, and that's what I call the open door policy. Like everyone says like, oh, you guys, you have to have these opportunities, these open doors. And I argue and I say, listen, there are doors that are open through that hallway of life.
Yeah.
You're walking down your hallway of life and there are open doors. Some of them are cracked. Some of them are wide open. Some of them are maybe closed that you need to open.
Yeah, you might need to pick that lock.
Need to pick that lock. But a lot of them are more open than you think. People are just afraid to take their head out of their ass and actually open those doors and check them out. Yeah. And so
especially in this country.
Especially in this country, right? You're exactly right. And so I was literally just sitting, I was doing my thing. I was interested enough to walk through an open door to go, what's this about? And then when someone says, well, you're not supposed to be in this room, but if you want to come in, you can. And I was like, to this day, I have no idea why I did it. Why in the world would I go do it? Literally would like go, oh yeah, I took a wrong turn, but this is Bud's. Yeah, sure. Like this sounds great. Let me go do this. And then 20 years into it, because I competed for 20 years. And then later you're like, oh, right, I made a career of this. Like amazing. 2 Olympic trials after that, like literally changed the trajectory of my entire life. And I look back and I go, that makes no sense. Yeah. Unless it was preordained that was what I was supposed to do. Because then I look, I go, without college track and field, I wouldn't have really understood how to train and how to lift. I wouldn't have fallen in love with lifting and wouldn't have fallen in love with human performance. Right. I wouldn't have had my attempted Olympic career that turned into a professional Highland Games career.
I wanted to ask you about Highland Games, by the way. Yeah. I'm not going to let you go without asking about that.
Yeah. But then that is really what set the basis for Sorinex in that era, because I started working in 99. I started working in July 1st, 1999, which was 2 weeks after my last collegiate national championship. So going into what I was trying to train for the Olympics for the next 5 years, all I cared about was training. So much like yourself, when you were doing in the SEAL teams, like that was probably weapons and training and tactics. Like that was all that was in here. And for me, that's all I cared about. The cool part is the industry was shifting out of the hypertrophy bodybuilding world into human performance training. So I hit it like coming off the exit at 70 miles an hour, right into where the whole field was going. Was exactly where I was living, which was, how do you get bigger, faster, stronger, and compete better? So for the next 5 to 10 years, all I cared about was getting better in what happened to be what the industry wanted.
Yeah.
And I look back and I go, if I hadn't have gone to the weight room that day, I laugh. I go, I'd have been a fly fishing guide in Boone, North Carolina. I'd have stayed 170, 180 pounds. I'd been skinny, wrung out, and I'd been running around the mountains. I'd have killed a boatload of stuff and I'd have had a bunch of fun and all this other. But I go, Sorinex probably wouldn't have survived because Dad needed help. So that wouldn't be a company. The success that we've had and we've been able to do, we wouldn't have been able to build the culture. We wouldn't have been able to help the military, like all that stuff. And I go, gosh, that kind of really boils down to me being kind of curious one day and open. And when a door opened, I went, okay.
Amazing.
Yeah. And so I look at that and it brings me to tears at times, because I was like, it just doesn't make mathematical sense under any other circumstance. You couldn't like, all right, here's what's going to happen. This is going to be great. You'll love this story, and you're just like, that doesn't make any sense. There was not even on the radar. So that's kind of my story, how I got into the track and field and throwing, but that's why I still so love that. I stayed up till midnight last night. One of our employees, Josh Altunde, he actually was competing for the U.S. last night in his first world championships, and he got the bronze medal, threw a lifetime best 3 times. Just
in hammer?
Awesome.
What was he?
Shot put.
Shot put. Amazing.
Yeah. So he ended up just bombing out, just blew it up. And so he's a fellow Gamecock. He trains here at Sorinex. We have a job here for him and stuff like that. So he went in his first Worlds last night. Strangely enough, to the same stadium that I ended my college career on.
That's awesome.
And in Eugene, Oregon. And I'm, watching with my son, watching this, like, hey, I'm watching him realize the dream I never got to do. And it was just awesome. And I look and I go, gosh, is there a part of the Gamecock track and field dynasty that was built because that group that I came through with became kind of the golden era of that program, because we were all young freshmen that just probably grew up watching too many 80s movies. And we all thought that we could be something.
Yeah.
We just didn't know any better.
Right.
And all of us ended up going to nationals, and we just like, we're supposed to do this. And people are like, y'all are crazy. You're like, no, we're supposed to do this. And it's like,
imagine all the negative inputs people get today. Like so many, it's got to be a lot more than we got growing up in the 80s or whatever. I mean, every time you go on to Twitter or whatever else you're going on to, I mean, how many more negative inputs is a 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kid getting today than we got? It was so positive, going to those movies. You didn't leave the movie going like this, maybe there was a couple, but those were the outliers. Most of the time you're walking out there, you're like, yes, you walk out of Predator, you walk out of Rambo First Blood Part 2, you walk out of Commando, you walk out of Rocky 4, you're fired up,
Fired up. Yeah. And the only person that was maybe going to do something negative was like a bully.
Yeah.
Like they would have to actually physically interface with you. Yeah. Or like maybe a non-supportive parent, but besides that, everyone else is like, Rocky, that would totally happen.
And those things still exist today. But the other inputs, the popular culture inputs were, I would think they leaned positive. I would think for the most part,
from what I remember,
looking back, oh man, that's wild.
And it just makes me wonder, like, is this next group of people?
I know, that's what I was getting at.
Will they have the opportunity to randomly go to college and go do something that doesn't make any sense mathematically? And change their trajectory, their life. I don't know if that's possible anymore. Maybe, I hope.
Man,
I surely hope.
I wonder if they do the calipers, the body fat testing. Remember, all through the 80s, we had to do that. You had to line up, every kid in the class, and you'd go through and you'd like lift up your shirt, or you'd have your shirt off, and they do the thing. Boom. I always remember, some kids that maybe weren't in the best shape. Like, oh man, is that like? I don't know. I doubt they do that anymore. I'm thinking that's
absolutely
that's too humiliating. They must have done that on the Goldbergs. That show, The Goldbergs, where they have this family in Pennsylvania that's growing up in the 80s. It's a sitcom, and it sounds like something that they would have done on that TV show, is to show the kids doing that with the fat caliper thing.
Well, yeah, they used to have the presidential fitness test with the peg boards and like all this stuff.
Oh yeah, I still have my stuff, still have my certificate and my patch.
See, it mattered.
Yeah,
it mattered. My dad, when he was coaching and teaching, he had some 3rd and 4th graders. He had a weightlifting club that after school they would go, and he would teach them full snatches and cleans and stuff like that, little kids. Yeah. And we were in South Texas, probably 10 or 15 years ago, hunting. And the guide, we're in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. And we're hanging out around the fire, and we're like, he's like, where are you from? And we went to South Carolina. He goes, oh, really? I am too. Turned out this is one of Dad's little guys from 30-something years before. And he started tearing up. He goes, I still have my awards that you gave me as in the weightlifting club.
Yeah.
This 45, 50-year-old man sitting around a fire. And he was just like, you were the best teacher I ever had. But what it was positive. It was capability. It was, pouring into those people. And there was, I hate to say it this way, this is going to sound really insensitive, probably. Shame is a motivator.
Yeah.
Like when you kind of talked about unfortunately, you pull up your shirt, maybe you didn't look like, it's like, okay, I remember being bad at stuff when I was that age. It kind of makes you want to get better at it. You go home, you're like, hey, I can't throw a spiral very good. I'm going to go throw a spiral a bunch of times and you do it horribly. I don't think that's a bad thing. Yeah. Be ashamed of what you're doing enough to freaking change.
Yeah.
But I think you'd get crucified if you said that these days. You might want to redact
Redacted. Oh man. And Highland Games. So how do you find out about the Highland Games? Is that something that people talked about in your circles? Was that something that you knew about?
Right.
Or is it something that at the end of your college career, you find out about? Or how long has it been going on? How do you get into that?
Sure. Oh, the Highland Games were super fun. So being in the strength sports world, the Iron Game, as they call it, you just hear of these others, whether it's strongman or whatever it is. And so I used to get a magazine called Milo Magazine. Strangely enough, I talked to Jocko about it, and he literally, I was in Milo in 97 or 98. We were talking about this conversation, and he goes, oh yeah, I have every article.
No way.
Of that. And I go, actually, when I was still in college, they had a picture of me in the magazine. I was cleaning body weight with one hand on a barbell. And he goes, I remember that picture. It pissed me off. He, about 20 minutes later, sends me a picture of me. He goes, I told you I still have it. I'm like, you still have the original.
That's
he goes, it made me so mad that there was some kid somewhere that could do that. And I was just like, that's hilarious. But anyway, we would look at these magazines, and they'd have all these, strength sports, Highland Games in one of them. You're wearing a kilt, you're lifting and throwing these trees and rocks and all this heavy crap, and they call it the heavy events. Now, it was made, this is awesome from a patriotism standpoint. The events were made by the Scottish people because the British took away any way for them to militaristically train.
Remember the rocks.
Right. Mm-hmm. You got it. So they would take their weights that they would use on their scales in the agricultural society for using their scales, and they would learn to throw them because that would keep them strong and capable. And then we're not doing military training. And then we would take these hammers that they would use to pound out everything, and they would throw them over their head. They would throw rocks and the story about was it a cairn or cairn they call it with the pile of rocks, how that works in the community?
No, remind me. I mean, I know what that is.
So this is what I thought was beautiful. So each family would have a rock, and that would, like from Braveheart, remember they would literally have that rock is in their garden or their hearth or whatever. And then at gatherings and get-togethers, all the men would go out in the yard and they would throw like a shot put, and they call it the clacknart, which is the stone of strength. And basically, whoever throws the stone the furthest was kind of known as like the guy in the family. That was like the patriarch, and that would kind of be the handing over of the torch. When you could throw further than your dad, like, all right, I got it. We don't have to fight. I know you're man enough at this point. So they would, when they would go off to battle, each family or each man would take a stone and they'd put, as they walked out of their town, they would put it in a pile, their stone in a pile. When they returned back from battle, they'd pick up their stone and take it home. The ones who died, stones always stayed there in a pile.
Wow.
And so they literally laid the stone of their own memorial
Wow.
for that town. And the towns would leave it there. And that was their memorial and their reminder of, this is how many we lost at this one.
Wow.
And they put their stones there. Like, it still like tears me up.
Yeah.
Like, how beautiful of a tribute is that? Like, you walk off going, I'm laying my stone. I hope I could come back and pick it up.
Yeah.
And if not, I am laying my memorial here. So if you go through those old towns in Scotland, you'll see these piles of stones and you're like, whew, they got decimated.
Wow.
Those guys got decimated. Like, it's just such a powerful thing, you know? So that's one of the events is the Clocknards, the stone strength. So there was so much history and it was such that heroic tale. And so I'm coming off a thrower's background going, hey, I probably could be pretty good at this. I know how to throw stuff. And you know, there's the tartans, you know, that are your own pattern for your family tree. And I believe it was Eric the Red created the tartan system when he started the Viking, when he would travel to those islands. So he got all the different families wearing these different patterns so he could see who was friendly and who was foe. So everyone wears their own tartans, which is really cool. You go to a Highland game. I was in the Arthur clan, which was actually cool because King Arthur was in my family bloodline.
Wow.
So when I would walk around, like other Arthurs from anywhere in the world, they knew I was one of their people. So they invite you over to their tent, give you some booze and give you some food. If I was competing, they'd come out and watch you. And like, it was really a neat family tribe type thing. I've never met these people in my life. And they're, hey, you know, if I'd win, they'd take pictures with me. These are my people, you know? Wow. So that was just a cool thing because I was taking a skill set that I knew and then was able to take it to a totally different place. So yeah, we would throw cabers, which is a tree, and stones, hammers, weights. And it was done in this big festival type situation. And it was kind of funny. So my first competition I ever competed in was actually Saturday. I'll get the date wrong. Probably September 15th, 2001.
Whoa.
So if you do the math, I think it was Wednesday, was it, on September 11th?
Tuesday, yeah.
Tuesday, was it? Okay, so there was the Saturday. So the Charleston Highland Games that weekend was the first athletic competition done in the United States after September 11th, which happened to be my first competition.
Wow.
So I went down there and I remember I had an American flag stuck on my belt. And I went down there. I remember it was just so somber, like, you know, I'd already signed up for the games. I didn't know if they were going to do it after that. And I was like, well, I'm going to go down there and like, and they're playing Amazing Grace. And like, you're just like, you know, this is a thing, you know, we're doing this. So I competed off and on. I do like usually the Charleston game, like once a year in September. I didn't train for it or anything. So fast forward 2006, 5, 6, 7, somewhere in there. I went to a game. And I think I won at like 7 events. It's like a decathlon type scoring. Okay. So you have 7 events overall as the champion. And I think I got like 3 firsts, 3 seconds, and like an 8th or something. And just one event I was terrible at. And I got 2nd overall.
Dang.
And I kept getting 2nd overall at all these events. And I wasn't really training, but I was like, oh, this is cool. And of course I'd win the hammer and I might win the stone because those are things I'd already done. And I was walking off the field and I talked to this gentleman, the athletic director. I said, gosh, I really appreciate you having me today. He goes, I said, my name is Bert Sorin. He goes, oh, you're Bert. And I went, well, yeah. And he goes, you're the one they said that would be good if you try.
Dang.
I'm like, I was like, wait, what? And they go, yeah, they said you were like some Olympic hammer thrower, but you don't train. But if you did, you'd be pretty awesome. And all I could hear was, you'd be good if you would try. And it just pissed me off so bad. Not that they would say it, but they were right.
Yeah.
And I was like, so my name, you recognize my name and my last name as someone who doesn't try. Knowing I came off of college that 3 years in a row, I got most improved in coaches' work because I tried harder than everyone. So that was my identity in my head. And I had to come to the realization was, their identity for me was very accurate and it was very different than what I wanted it to be because they were right. I was pretty good at some things. And so I wouldn't try. I would just, I'll practice this week and I'll go in a game. So I said, okay. I said, what's the biggest thing that I could do in this amateur rank? So I go, well, we have this north-south, invite this year, North states versus the South states, blah, blah, blah. I go, how do I do that? They go, well, you got to be one of the best in this and you'll get invited. I said, okay, what next? And they go, USA versus Scotland next year. I go, okay, then what? And they go, well, after that, you kind of probably go pro if you're really good. I go, okay, cool. And so I went home and I looked up this thing called NASGA Web. It was the North American Scottish Games Association, their website with their databases. Oh man, and I would pull up every event and I would say, okay, hammer. And I'd find where I was on the ranking. And I go, oh, I'm 8th. And I go, okay, I want to be top 3. And I'd write down the distance that would take. And then I just went through everyone. I'd find whatever one I sucked at the most. And I would go to practice and I'd put out a towel at that distance and I would throw my balls off until I could just pepper that towel. And I'd go to meet the next week and I'd PR. So in 8 weeks, I went from 54th in the nation to 2nd.
Nice.
And it was just like, but I needed to hear that, oh, you'd be good if you'd try. And I was like, so that year I ended up making the North-South. The next year I was team captain for the US team. We went over there and won in Scotland. The next,
what's it like to win in Scotland?
Year, oh, it was awesome. So, it was crazy. So I threw a hammer. So I think it was the Edinburgh Games, I believe it was, in Dalwhinnie, Scotland.
Wow.
And they were throwing a hammer. It's amazing. So they had never stopped, even during World War II, they never stopped that game.
Nice. Because they did stop the Olympics, if memory serves.
Yes. And they haven't stopped. The Pleasanton Highland Games went 150 something years. The only year they ever stopped it was for COVID, which super sucks. But anyway, so they had a hammer that we were throwing with a rattan handle. And I was like, man, this thing is awesome. They go, yes, the same handle has been on that hammer since 1932.
Dang, that's pretty cool.
And I'm like, the DNA that's in that handle from the greatest Highland gamers ever in Scotland is all in this handle.
Yeah.
And I was able to break the field record. So it was like
crazy.
It was awesome, like a surreal moment in this awesome place. And but it all came back to hard work and then just deciding like, okay, and I would just pick it off. It was like, okay, I'm this. I got to be here. And so that became super fun because then it felt like a hunt again. It was like, this is my goal. This is what I'm going after. It's very quantifiable. Right. And then that kind of took over my life there for a while. And then I was able to win the first amateur worlds and then went on to be a pro. And then I competed around for a while. Dang. And then was able to make a living. Not to make a living, but the funny part was I made more money in the first day of Scottish Highland Games I made my entire track and field career.
Why? Because you're sponsored by some companies or something?
No, they paid cash. It was great. It was fantastic. So when you're pro, like you go and, it wasn't a lot of money, but some days you walk away with 2,500 cash, which for me, I was like, I'm 28, 30 years old. And my goal, it's funny. I thought I had the world by the ass. I said, if I can make my one hobby of Highland Games pay for my other hobby of hunting, I will have won at life.
Yes. I love it.
And so I would take all my winnings every year and I would either buy a new bow, rifle, scope, pay for my deer leases. And I thought you got it made. At 30, you couldn't tell me nothing, man. I wasn't making a lot of money, but man, I was making enough where I always had some arrows and some broadheads and I was making some cash. It was a good life at that time.
Nice, man.
Nice. So that was my Highland Games.
Man. And then is it like after that, we really start to build Sorinex into what it is today?
Yeah.
Because now it's building it so recognizable. It's everywhere. See it in the background of photos and all these collegiate gyms and
background of number one Amazon shows.
That's right. You did Joe Rogan stuff. You have Jocko's stuff. My stuff's in a pile outside, and we're gonna get once we build that barn. I want you to come out, and we'll have we'll go on a hunt and we'll hang out and whatever. But I want to put your eye towards the space and be like, all right,
let's get it figured out.
In the meantime, it's just going to look like that. The Sorinex Outdoors, the Logan Hanks's outside area for a little bit here. But even with that, though, I don't know if it'll work out to drop by during TAC, but just to see what you think. Like, no, you should do. Let's move this over here, do that, or add this, and then you'll be set, or whatever. I don't know. I just just need to get moving.
Yeah, no,
I just need to
I'd
get
love to.
moving, you know?
Yeah. Just first open the boxes.
Yeah, that's first step. I would open those boxes. It'd be embarrassing if you show up and they're still not open. It's on my list of things to do today. I'm excited about it too. I'm super excited to check it all out.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
You start to build it, man. You kind of start to, is that where things like kind of?
Well, actually, that's a good question. Yeah. So I got hurt my second or third year as a pro. I tweaked my knee. It was like one of those weird injuries. I subluxed my patella and it just never seemed to get better. And then I smoked my ankle really bad. And I actually got a blood clot in my leg because my ankle was swelling so much. And I competed at the world championships and I didn't care that I thought I'd hurt my hamstring, not even realizing that I had a throbbing blood clot in my leg.
Geez.
And so I flew to San Francisco, competed, got silver, and I was pissed. And I knew I could have done better. And I pull off my knee sleeve, and one of my fellow throwers go, "Dude, what's wrong with your leg?" I was like, I just pulled my hamstring and it's like swelling. He goes, "Your leg's twice the size it should be. You got like compartment syndrome or something like that." "No, I don't. I'll be fine." And he's like, "What did you?" I goes, "Well, I tore up my ankle about 8-9 weeks ago. It's better. I'm fine now." He goes, you really need to get it looked at." So like a dum-dum, I flew back across the country. Yeah. So I get in the next day. I call him, one of my buddies, a trainer. He gets me in. He goes, "Yeah, you have a big DVT." So he goes, "We'll call you back." So I went in a little bit later that day. And since that morning, it had moved up where I had from my hip all the way to my knee was a solid DVT.
Oh.
So I was sitting in my office and I told the dude that was working with me, I go, "It feels like a worm is in my leg, like crawling around." And I think it was that blood clot sliding up.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So immediately we went in, had to do whatever. I remember I had to give myself shots of some blood thinner. And I remember, well, again, just how nuts I was at the time. I had just pulled an alligator tag for the first alligator hunt in South Carolina. So I asked the lady, I was like, "Is there anything I don't need to do?" She goes, "Don't go do anything that you could get cut because you could bleed out." I go, "How about alligator hunting?" And she was like, "Ha." And I go,
"Oh, really?"
"Yeah, no, seriously. How about alligator hunting? Because I just pulled a tag and I'm not going to not go." And she's like, "You can't do that." I was like, Anyway. So I remember being in the swamp, giving myself shots in the stomach, which was, again, very dumb. But we killed a giant alligator, which was super fun. So that happened. And I remember, and as I sobered up from the whole experience, I go, "Hold on a minute. I was willing to just possibly die because I was so focused on trying to win and trying to like do that side of my life." And I realized, I think at the time I was 30, 31, 32, maybe. And I go, I've competed for almost 20 years. I don't have a wife. I don't have kids. My business is good, but not great. I can't throw for the rest of my life. I'm obviously making some poor decisions if I'm willing to not worry about a DVT or an injury or whatever, just because I want to compete so badly. So I said, I'm going to push the timeout button on my decision making. Like, Bert doesn't get to make big boy decisions right now because I'm definitely off. Yeah. And so I'd walked away from the sport. I said, like, I'm done for a while until I could start making more mature long-term decisions. And when I did, I soon thereafter met who became my wife. And, I said, gosh, like, if I would have died from that, because I went to a Christmas party that night or a couple that year. And the doctor who I met with is a friend of mine. He was there and he had a couple of drinks in him. He said, "Bert," he goes, "you or one of your descendants are going to do something amazing for this world." I go, "Why do you say that, Doc?" He goes, "You know where that blood clot should have been, dude?" And he taps me on the chest. He goes, "Right there." He goes, "You massaged it, you iced it, you heated it, you hiked it, you flew it, you competed in it for months." He goes, "If you were trying to commit suicide by blood clot, you were going for it."
Wow. Yeah.
He goes, "You shouldn't be here, man." He goes, "So God's not done with you. So realize that you're supposed to do something amazing." And I went, well, me throwing a ball real far probably isn't the thing. Like, making a steel ball landing far
as cool as it is. Yeah.
As cool as it is, probably it landing further from my feet than it does from yours probably isn't my thing that I'm going to leave this world with. So I was like, all right, time to be a grown-up. Had an awesome girl that I was dating. realized she needed to be my wife, realized if I was going to have some kids and leave something actually meaningful behind that, I need to go ahead and get on that. Realizing that if I was going to have a business that could be what I think it could be, time to probably get on that. And that changed everything. So that was when things started trending up. And about a year later, there were 7 of us here at Sorinex. And I brought everyone around. I was like, all right, guys, I think we were like 31, 32, maybe 33 at the time. I was like, all right, guys, here's the thing. I've been thinking, we do some amazing things here, but we're not where we want to be as a company. I was like, let's put in a ridiculous amount of time and effort over the next few years and really make a run at this. Let's burn the ships behind us. Let's go after what we know we could do and be where we're going, let's do it while we're young enough. If it doesn't work, we could go get real jobs because I don't want to think of having to like figure this out at 45 that I should have made a run at it when I was 32. Right. And I said, we're in 3 years, we're going to be closer to where we want to be, or we're going to run the son of a bitch into the ground in 2. Nice. I was like, but at least we'll know. We'll know. Mm-hmm. We'll know what we're supposed to go do, and we'll know we put a good shot at it. And I was like, if you want to leave now, now's the time to leave. Otherwise, kind of like you're signing on for pretty hard for a few years. And all 7 people are like, let's do it.
Amazing.
And that's when it started changing. And it didn't happen overnight by any means, but it's like, 3 or 4 years, 5 years into it, you're like, hey, this is pretty cool. Like we're in 95% of the NFL. And then, fast forward, I think it was something crazy. It was like in a week, we got a call from the Patriots, Joe Rogan, and Kevin Bacon.
Nice. Hey,
I go,
Kevin's hitting it hard, huh?
Yeah. And it was
Kevin's
just like,
getting after it. That's awesome.
His people. And then there was another guy who's, I won't name, but he was at that time, he was the richest person on the planet, like all within a week. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, so literally the highest performers in the military, the athletics, the influencer world, the highly, like literally the highest performers. And I was like, guys, let's not let this moment pass without kind of realizing like at this point, we're legitimately the choice. We're the go-to guys for the go-to guys on this planet. Yep. Like, let's not pat ourselves on the back too long.
Capitalize on that momentum.
Yeah, capitalize on momentum, but also go, this is cool.
Yeah.
This is all right. Like, because you go for so long without just like, keep head down. We call it head down welding. Just keep welding. Just go. It's like, hold on, man. Like, if we don't get to smile at each other every once in a while and go, good job, guys. Like,
so awesome.
Kind of the point. So it was a neat experience. And it was just like, huh.
That's cool, man.
Cool.
I love what you're doing. I love it. And so before I let you go, I want to ask you about Winterstrong, Summerstrong, how those came about. I mean, they look so cool. People can follow your Instagram and see that. The Sorinex one, Sorinex Outdoors. I think there's probably a couple others. But it looks like so much fun out there. And you guys are bringing great people together.
We got to get you out sometime.
I'd love to.
I know you're ridiculously busy.
It's a little busy right now.
Kind of. Yeah, next May, I'd still love to have you speak at Summerstrong sometime. I'd be honored, but I know, you got to get your 17 books out.
That's crazy.
But I'll buy every one of them.
You're so awesome.
Like I do. I get there's like candy day when they come out.
Thank you.
So Summerstrong. So 15 years ago.
Oh, it's been going on for 15 years.
15 years, yeah. It's weird, right?
Amazing.
So my dad's birthday, and it was June 26th. And so like a week before, I was like, hey, Pops, what do you want to do for your birthday? He goes, I don't know, man. Let's just invite some strong people from the community over. Let's grab a keg. Let's cook out. Let's lift weights and just hang out. It's just like open gym. So, okay, cool. I put it out like, it was kind of before social media. I don't remember how we got it out. Message board maybe. And 38 people from 5 states showed up. And we're like, hey, this is cool. So we cooked out and we just had fun. And what I found happened within the first hour, someone who was really good at sandbags. And that's where when sandbag training started. They just started coaching sandbag. They just started doing it. People were like, hey, what's that? So they started doing it. Well, then a little while later, some Olympic weightlifters started training. And then so the sandbag guy and the power lifter started listening to the Olympic weightlifter, and he would coach I can't remember, like in the 80s, like the break dancers would get in the middle and they would do their thing.
Yeah,
and the next
breaking.
Guy, and it kept breaking to electric boogaloo. And it just started happening that way, where about every hour and a half, another expert from their field would start giving away free information.
Wow.
But everyone would join in. And so I sat back and I watched. I go, it's interesting because if you get a bunch of powerlifters together, there's a ranking system. So people don't want to give information, and not just powerlifters, it's just any group that's homogenous. So they all kind of rank up and like, hey, there's a pecking order. But if there's something that you're not into, you just want to learn. So what I saw with that first year, I go, gosh, if you bring the same type of person, but from dissimilar backgrounds, the pissing contest kind of ends. And we watched it. I go, man, it's just like getting all these disciplines. You put them in a room and you just shake the room and you just back up and go, hey, what's going to happen? And I started realizing, wow, if you really pull from different disciplines, specifically military and college and all these that have no experience the same, everyone's very open with their information and they're very supportive. And there's never this like pecking order established and pissing contest. Cause it's like, hey, cool, dude, you did these things that we hear about on the news happen and you won an Olympic gold. Cool. They're both awesome. And you guys could share information. And then we all started realizing, wow, the mindset was very similar. The preparation was similar. Although the two manifestations looked extremely different, there was a lot of similarities and there was healing, because you have a guy, hey, I just got out of the Navy. This guy saying, I won a 2004 Olympic silver medal that was turned into an Olympic gold medal 8 years later after the first guy got popped for drugs. And I never got my day in the sun. I never got my medal ceremony. My medal ceremony was in the food court in the Atlanta airport. And he's still hurting. And he's still going like, I trained my whole life for that moment and I got it stolen from him. And then this guy's maybe has a experience with his military career. And then they're over in the corner talking like, hey, man, how are you getting through this? And so you're starting to see this just gelling of these different worlds coming together. That was like Summerstrong 7. And then we just kind of realized what works is getting dissimilar people. And then it's the Neil Kamimuras, the knife makers. Start pulling all these different people, and kind of the weirder, the better in a way, as long as they're all high-end top performers. Right. And then so you could just get a really vast dichotomy of different mindsets, but you realize that the heart of it's all the same. So that became Summerstrong. Yeah. And it's awesome. It's my favorite weekend of the year.
Too cool. And you had a Winter Strong.
Yep. So then about after Summerstrong 10 or 11, some of my close friends are always at Summerstrong. They go, gosh, I get so charged up from it. We got to do it again. We need to do a Winter Strong, and we just need to rinse, repeat, and do it again. And I was kind of laughing. I was like, we can't just do the same thing. And that was when I was really starting to get to hunt more and everything. I was like, all right, I'm going to flip the script on everybody. Like, we're going to do it at my farm. It's going to be an immersion event. It's going to be camping. It's going to be competition. We're going to meld the world of the human performance and the outdoors world, which I kind of laugh. I said, besides family members, the only two groups of people on my phone are those two groups, but I have the top performers in the world in both of them. I said, well, y'all just need to know each other. So I'm going to invite you all to my farm, and we're going to camp out, and we're going to have these different companies out there that have these amazing performers, and we're going to create this awesome experience. And the first year, I think it was like 30 or 40 people. We had an awesome experience. And then this past year, it was invite only, because I know I have to make sure that it's the people I know, because you have guns and camping and the whole deal. But it just has grown into this beautiful thing. And and there's been some other events that, have kind of spun off of that with some different companies using, which is awesome. And we're super support that. And, I know we didn't come up with the concept, but it was pretty rare at the time when we did it. And, so it's just an immersion event of mixing kind of my two passions. Like, really, Sorinex has always just been a manifestation of basically what me and my dad are into.
So cool.
So that's that. So you got to come out.
I know. I'd love it. I'd love to come out for both. That'd be super fun. And then hopefully I'll get to see you next week. I'll stay in touch by text and
that'd be great.
Figure out if there's a way to zip over.
Are you going to be on the mountain at all to shoot? Or
now
that you're so famous, you got to like,
well, not even
have a gonzo nose and a sombrero or something.
It's like crazy. I mean, I was just in Blowing Rock, after we finished up at Winkler's this last couple of days ago. And two different groups of people recognized me just on the street and got pictures, and people in like the restaurants there in Blowing Rock, which is beautiful. I don't want to talk too much about it because it's such a great spot.
Won't blow up their spot.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's already kind of, but it's so beautiful and it's just amazing. But yeah, pictures and the whole thing, but it's happening more and more. But really, I mean, I would be on the mountain if my book was already done. But once again, priorities, got to prioritize getting that thing, and it has to be the best it can possibly be because people are trusting me with their time when they buy that thing or listen to it or pick it up to read it, and it's got to have all of me in it. So that takes the priority.
It does. The first 5 have definitely set that stage. So the 6th, they always terrify me, which is good.
Yeah, well, this next one might be the scariest yet. So
what?
Yeah, I thought the bioweapons one, number 4 in the Devil's Hand was, and then started doing that research into artificial intelligence and quantum computing for this last one for In the Blood, and now what I'm researching for this next one here, it's even scarier than those two things combined. So you'll see. You'll see.
Yeah. Gosh. Yeah. No, it was. I think probably from the Devil's Hand, the bio stuff. Probably the most terrifying part of it was not only what the bioweapons were, but just how it could be pinned or misconstrued to come from different sources and the reasoning behind that. And I'll leave that there. But it was like, it actually kind of depressed me for a couple of days. So I was like, oh man.
Yeah. You gotta stock up on more canned goods and more ammunition.
It was like, oh man.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're doing an amazing job, and it's great. I think people need to they need to read books.
I appreciate that. And I sincerely appreciate all your support and the example that you set out there. Because anyone from any industry can look at what you've built and what you continue to build, and that example and how you, not just professionally, but how you live your life as well. So thank you for all of that. With all those negative influences that we talked about earlier, it's important on social channels, who you follow. I mean, that's an input, and your positive influence on those around you. It's something that we all can aspire to do better, and you're leading the way. So thank you so much for that, and hopefully we'll get you out here. And I want you to take a look at the new place and see what tweaks you have on the new setup, because I do need to. We talked about those priorities that I had for the last few years. I think I pushed it about as far as I can. And might need to get a little more sleep and eat a little better, eat something besides Fruit Loops and Dr. Pepper as I'm writing, and maybe throw the weights around again. So those things need to get back on the list this year. This is my year to get organized, and I'm already made great strides in that as far as that goes thus far. But by the end of the year, now I'll have a better foundation from which to move forward as far as being effective and efficient with my time and resources.
That'd be great. And if we could help out with any kind of programming and stuff too, because that's one of the things we're doing now. It's coming with Sorinex Outdoors. Nice. It's going to be some interesting programming that's a little different than what people have seen.
Awesome. I love it.
Love to send you some of that.
I love it. Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, thank you for everything. And hopefully I'll see you next week.
Yeah, brother.
We'll stay in touch by text. And thanks for spending this time today.
It was a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. Take care. Thank you to our presenting sponsor, Navy Federal Credit Union. I have been a member since 1996. There's my original card right there. I got that at Dam Neck, Virginia, when I was at Intelligence Specialist A School at the Navy and Marine Corps Intelligence Training Center on Dam Neck, Virginia, right before I went to BUD/S. So it was boot camp, ISA school, BUD/S, and then off to the races in the SEAL team. But the entire time, to include through today, I have been a member of Navy Federal Credit Union. And now they're sponsoring this podcast, which is amazing. Crazy how things come full circle like that. Becoming a member at Navy Federal Credit Union lets you experience more From everyday commutes to your next big vacation, the flagship credit card earns you 3 times the points on travel, so you can get rewarded for wherever you're headed next. Plus, this premium travel card has a low annual fee of $49 and 2 times the points on all purchases outside of travel, which means the rewards don't have to end even when the vacation does. Speaking of rewards, you can get a Navy Federal auto loan and reward yourself with a new car. Applying is easy. You can do it on their mobile app, online, or by phone. And it's so fast, you can get a decision in seconds. Navy Federal Credit Union has great rates on auto loans. With their car buying service powered by TrueCar, you can shop, compare, and get upfront pricing on your next new or used car. At Navy Federal, our members are the mission. Nice. I like that. Navy Federal is insured by NCUA, open to the armed forces, the DoD, veterans, and their families. Flagship rates are variable and range between 10.74% and 18% APR based on credit worthiness. ATM fees for cash advances are up to $1 at non-Navy Federal ATMs. Credit and collateral subject to approval. Message and data rates may apply. Visit NavyFederal.org for more information and to apply. That's NavyFederal.org. I want to thank my friends at Black Rifle Coffee for sponsoring the Danger Close podcast. I've been a huge fan for the longest time. Drink Black Rifle Coffee every day. And if you keep your eyes peeled, you will notice that perhaps Chris Pratt is wearing a Black Rifle Coffee t-shirt, not unsimilar to this one, in the Amazon series adaptation of The Terminal List. Now you can go to blackriflecoffee.com/dangerclose and use code DangerClose20 at checkout for 20% off your purchase and your first coffee club order. Black Rifle Coffee, America's coffee. Keep crushing. Today's gear segment is sponsored by Zero Foxtrot. Zero Foxtrot provides unique products that reflect the old school vintage military lifestyle. I've actually been following these guys for a while. Love what they're doing. Have a bunch of other shirts and coffee mugs downstairs from the last few years. Just love it when guys get out and absolutely crush it. Zero Foxtrot is veteran founded and is a proud supporter of our nation's defenders, veterans, and first responders. I'm actually wearing this shirt. Look at that. Canoe Club USA. What does that mean? I think you're going to have to look it up in your web browser, the Google machine. Canoe Club USA. Awesome shirts out there. They have limited edition ones that drop every now and again that are super cool. So definitely go to zerofoxtrot.com. And right now, we have an exclusive code for listeners of Danger Close. Use code JC at checkout for 20% off your order. Very cool. Remember, you can gear up with Zero Foxtrot and use code JC at checkout for 20% off your order. Just go to zerofoxtrot.com/JC and remember to use code JC for 20% off at checkout, or just click the link in the description. Once again, that offer code is JC. Gear up with Zero Foxtrot and use code JC for 20% off. Awesome. Definitely do that and check out all they have going on. Follow them on the social channels. They have some great things out there. They do some history posts every now and again that are really cool and very well thought out. Definitely check out zerofoxtrot.com for all the stuff. They have Zippo lighters in there. They have these mugs right here. What does that say? Drink coffee, stack bodies, stay zero. Love this. And then this one right here. This is cool. This might be a limited edition one. I'm not sure. But for St. Patrick's Day, lack fear, not beer. Look at that. Boom. Love it. Awesome. So that's what they look like right there. Zero Foxtrot. You get a little of that action right there. That's a sticker. But check out their t-shirts, mugs right here. Whiskey glasses. These are some of my favorites right there. Look at that. Oh, yeah. Solid. So check them out for sure. zerofoxtrot.com/JC for 20% off. Welcome to the gear highlight portion of the Danger Close podcast. All right, since I just had Bert Sorin on of Sorinex, of course, I went downstairs, opened up some boxes, and the center mass bell. This one is, center mass bell, and this one's just 35 pounds right here. Got a 50 down there as well, but this thing, pretty sweet. I think it's time for me to get back in shape. But once again, that is Sorinex.com. So Awesome, Bert. Thank you, my friend. All right, what else do we have here? The Terminalist hardcover edition with Chris Pratt on it has a new foreword in the front here where I talk about how the series came to be, and then a bunch of exclusive photos in here as well. So that is out and available now. And Black Rifle Coffee Company, what have we here? Let's see. Exclusive coffee subscription club here. Ooh, look at that. I love this because it tells you how to make it different ways with the Chemex, different press, cold brew right there. And you get your sticker right there as well. And, ooh, look at that guy. Interesting. Check that out right there. Yep. So check out blackriflecoffee.com. See what they have going on over there. You might recognize Chris Pratt wearing the hat and the shirt in a few different episodes of the series on Amazon Prime. And what have we here? SITKA. You might also recognize Chris Pratt wearing SITKA in beginning of episode 4, and then a t-shirt that says SITKA on it in episode 2. So I've been with SITKA from the beginning, just as somebody that likes to check out new gear coming on the market, and love all the stuff that they do. And what's in here? This packaging. Even back then, even in the beginning, I always recognized how cool their packaging was. So look at that. The redesigned Jetstream jacket, which I believe is one of their most popular jackets. Look at this. Bam. 100% windproof Gore windstopper technology. Man, that is cool. Updated fit. I like that. Nice work, guys. And here it is. Cool. Awesome. SITKA gear. Man, I love what they're doing over there. All right. That is it for today. Thank you for tuning in to the Danger Close podcast, an Ironclad original presented by Navy Federal Credit Union. Find out more about Bert Sorin at Sorinex, and that is SORINEX.com. Also go to Bert Sorin on Instagram. Follow him there. And you can follow me at Jack Carr USA on the social channels, officialjackcarr.com. That's the website. You can click shop to go to the merch from there. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to leave 5-star rating and reviews wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until the next time, take care, stay safe, be strong, keep fighting.